Hey everyone, welcome back to Chess Thoughts, the spot where we dig into philosophy and self-improvement to level up our lives. I am your host. Today we're tackling a book that's like a punch to the gut, in the best way possible. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. This isn't your typical self-help fluff. It's a raw, no excuses look at what it takes to overcome your limits. Whether you're stuck in a rut or just curious about human potential, stick around. We're about to explore Goggins' wild journey and the tools he hands us to get tougher. Let's dive in. Remember that you can get the book through the link in the video description. All right, let's start with the man himself. David Goggins isn't your average author. He's a former Navy SEAL, an ultramarathon runner, and a guy who's pulled off insane feats, like knocking out 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours. But here's the kicker. He didn't start out as some superhuman. Picture a kid growing up with abuse, poverty, and a weight problem, over 300 pounds by his early 20s. He was depressed, spraying for cockroaches for a living, and going nowhere. Then something clicked. He decided to change, and that decision turned him into one of the hardest dudes alive. Can't Hurt Me is his story, but it's also a challenge. Goggins says we're all capable of way more than we think. Way more. He's not here to coddle you. He's here to wake you up. So what's his secret? That's what we're unpacking today. Let's get into the meat of the book, the ideas that make it stick. First off, there's the 40% rule. Goggins argues that when you feel like you're tapped out, say you're running and your legs are screaming, you're only at 40% of what you can actually do. There's another 60% hiding behind that mental wall. He figured this out during a 100-mile race he ran with bleeding feet and no prep. Crazy, right? But it's not about running 100 miles. It's about realizing your mind gives up first. I tested this recently. I was on a hike, totally gassed, ready to turn back. Then I thought, what if I've got 60% left? I kept going, made it to the top. It wasn't easy, but that view, worth it. That's the 40% rule. Push past done and see what's on the other side. Next up, the accountability mirror. This one's brutal but brilliant. Goggins would look in the mirror and call himself out. No sugarcoating. He'd write goals on it like drop the weight or become a SEAL, and every day he'd check in. Did I show up? Did I slack? It's you versus you, no hiding. I gave a shot. Stuck a note on my bathroom mirror. Finish that book you've been dodging. Every morning, it's right there. Some days I've got nothing to show for it, and that stings. But it's working. I'm chipping away at it now. Then there's the cookie jar. This is Goggins' mental stash of victories. Every time he crushed something tough, like losing 100 pounds or surviving SEAL Hell Week, he puts it in the jar. When life gets rough, he reaches in, grabs a memory, and uses it to keep going. What's in your cookie jar? Maybe it's passing a test you studied your butt off for, or that time you stood up for yourself. I've got one. Finishing a half marathon I trained for last year. Pulling that out when I'm dragging? Instant boost. Last big idea. pain as a teacher. Goggins doesn't run from suffering. He chases it. Ultramarathons, freezing water, insane workouts. It's how he grows. Now, I'm not saying you should torture yourself, but there's something to it. Avoiding discomfort keeps us soft. Facing it builds grit. I tried this with a little experiment. No phone for an evening. Sounds simple, but I was twitchy without that dopamine hit. By the end, though, I felt clearer, more in control. Small pain, big lesson. Okay, let's pause for a reality check. Goggins is intense like borderline nuts. Critics say his approach can wreck your body or mind if you go too far. He's had injuries, surgeries, and he admits it's not all sunshine. So, should we all live like him? Nah, most of us aren't trying to be SEALs or run 200 miles. But that's not the point. The goal here is the mindset, not the madness. You don't need to break records, just break your excuses. For me, reading this book flipped a switch. I used to think toughness was for other people. Now I see it's a choice. Like, I've been avoiding a hard talk with a friend. Post Goggins, I'm thinking, face it, grow from it. That's his gift. He shows you what's possible, then dares you to try. And yeah, it's not perfect. If you're prone to overdoing it, maybe ease in. But even a sliver of his philosophy can shake you out of complacency. So what do you do with all this? Here's your homework. Pick one and run with it this week. Mirror time. Grab a marker. Write one goal on your mirror. Could be cut the late night snacks or start that side hustle. Check in daily. No BS. 40% challenge. Next time you hit a wall, maybe mid-workout or mid-task, go 5% further. One more rep, one more sentence. Feel that shift. Cookie jar stockpile. Jot down 3 wins you're proud of. Stick them in your phone or wallet. When you're low, pull one out and lean on it. Don't overthink it. Goggins built his strength step by step. You can too. Let me know how it goes. Hit me up in the comments or wherever. That's a wrap for today's episode. Love this? Subscribe, share it with someone who needs a spark. I'm your host, signing off. Here's to breaking your limits, one choice at a time.